All right, welcome back, folks. So according to the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, the percentage of fatal and non-fatal injuries for police officers are four times more than all occupations. Of the non-fatal injuries that cause them to be out of work, 34% of those injuries are sprains, strains, and tears, which maybe could be decreased or avoided altogether by implementing fitness as a habit, something that many of you can be, of course, difficult with a tough schedule and a busy schedule, and a majority of local law enforcement departments not actually requiring fitness testing once on the job. Joining us to describe how important it is for these brave men and women to be fit and how she's helping is former TV anchor and owner of Train for Life, Jenny DeMarco. Jenny, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You got it. Well, it's great to have you. I love what you're doing out in the community to help law enforcement officers, people getting ready to go into law enforcement, and those who are out there. So we all know the inaccurate, in a lot of cases, or at least sensational, we'll call it, stereotype of the fat donut-eating cop that people put out there that are unable to keep up with the chase. But we've all seen that stereotype also play out in real life. For example, you can see it on old episodes of Cops. You can see it on Live PD. Although I think most of those people are fit there. But you get the point. You even yourself covered a story back in 2008 about a shackled inmate that not only outran one armed guard, but two. So where are physical fitness requirements for law enforcement missing the mark?
They're just not there, to be honest. Basically, one of the first things that law enforcement officers have to do, or aspiring law enforcement officers have to do, is take a fitness test. And amongst other things, they have their written test and their psychological evaluations and all of that. But the fitness test is one of the first few things. And then they get into the profession, and the further away from academy they get, the more likely it is that they're not in good physical health. And I mean, officers are, I think, 25 times more likely to die of cardiovascular disease than they are of like a crime-related death. So this is a huge issue, and it's easy for the public to look at an overweight officer and judge that, how they respond in a certain situation, judge that the person is overweight. But now, I mean, my husband's a federal law enforcement officer, and so I've been on both sides of the coin. I've seen it from the public perspective, and then I've seen it up close and personal, and I understand the issues that law enforcement have once they get into the profession. I mean, it's just so stressful. It's demanding as far as sleep and shift work. The things that they see, the things they may have to encounter are, I mean, they can take a toll on you. Eating habits are poor, especially for those working overnight. They have long hours. There's a lot of different reasons, and that all adds up into their terrible health statistics.
Yeah. Well, and even at, you see in the military, but even at recruitment level, law enforcement's having trouble, it sounds like, just like the military, as I was saying, in finding recruits capable of getting through the training, never mind maintaining it once they're in, and they're dealing with, that daily grind that you're talking about there. How are you trying to help solve this problem? Because I think that's one of the big components that you're working on. So what's that look like?
Right. So, it's hard from the outside coming in because I'm not a law enforcement officer. I do not claim to be a law enforcement officer, but this is what I do. I've studied this for a long time now. I've worked very closely with law enforcement over the years, training them and understanding the issues. So essentially, there's been a lot of different times where departments over the years have tried to instate fitness standards. And generally speaking, this is for local departments, not federal. Federal does have standards. However, those standards are a little bit loose, but they have standards nonetheless. Local departments have issues because they run up against laws that start from, in the 1960s on up. And when they try to instate these physical fitness standards, they basically run the risk of getting sued by current law enforcement. So I created a program to basically take aspiring law enforcement officers before they even go into the process, before they take their physical abilities test, before they go into academy, and start instilling healthy habits in them. Then once you get into academy, it's about 4 to 6 months, in academy, depending on where you are. And after that, there's a program, it's called Momentum, and it basically takes the recruits out of academy into their profession with short, intense workouts. And that covers an entire year span. So my goal is, once I got close to the situation, because everyone wants to be like, why aren't these cops in shape? Why don't they just get in shape? Well, once they're in the profession, it's hard to turn the ship around. I mean, it's hard for the average person. I work with everybody, not just police officers. And the average person has an issue changing habits that have been instilled for a long time. Imagine upping the stress, decreasing the sleep and increasing the life responsibilities. And it's just a recipe for disaster. So my goal is to get to people prior to the hiring process, prior to academy, and take them through that first year and instill the habits that they'll need to take them through a healthy career in law enforcement.
And this all kind of is a part of your LEAP program, which obviously has that target audience that you're talking about there. But what makes, tell us a little bit more about, and we've got to run here unfortunately soon, but what makes LEAP stand out, not just with that intended audience, but also in the fitness industry writ large?
So LEAP is a pretty intense program. It focuses on work capacity, and it is 8 weeks, 5 days a week, and it's about, the workouts can be anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour and a half, but that all depends on the individual. As you go through the program, your goal is to shorten the duration of the workouts. So it works on strength aspects, it works on bench press, it works on the max push-ups, max pull-ups, and you're tested 3 times throughout using the Cooper Fitness standards. So people who take LEAP can go into the hiring process knowing that they're absolutely going to crush their fitness abilities tests.
I love it. And lastly, before you go, I'm curious, because, and I said it at the beginning, I love what you're doing, but what made you make this switch? You were a TV anchor, you were a journalist, and now you're doing this awesome work, supporting these brave men and women and helping keep them healthy and fit. Why the switch?
It just made sense. When I was in TV, you briefly touched on it. I covered a story where a shackled inmate kicked out the back window of a van, outran 2 armed officers who couldn't discharge their weapons. And I was looking at that, and I've always trained on the side. I'm a lifelong athlete. So it's always been a side gig for me. But after seeing that, it really made an impact. And I saw what a need there was for people to say, hey, let me help you, to the law enforcement community. So it was a natural switch. It happened over a decade, but it was a natural switch for me.
A slow and natural switch. Well, again, I really do mean it. I love what you're doing. I appreciate what you're doing. I know a lot of other people do too, so thank you for that. Where's the best place for people to follow you?
Sure. So you can find me on Leo's Train for Life on Instagram. You can go to Leo's Train for Life /manual if you're interested in downloading a free manual and getting started in the law enforcement, fitness aspects. It has tons of information in there, and it will be a really good jumping off point. And then if you're interested in LEAP, you can go from there. So that's Leo's Train for Life.com /manual.
I love it. Jenny, thanks so much for being here again. Thanks for what you do. We'll look forward to having you back and following the great work that you're working on out there.
Thank you, Drew. I really appreciate being here.
You got it. All right, that is all the time we have for you guys today. Thanks again for joining us. It's been a fun week. Tons of awesome guests. We appreciate each and every one of them. We have a great slate of shows planned for you next week, which we will start on Tuesday, not Monday, Tuesday. And finally, remember,